Hello. Um, I had to cut that short 15 minutes. I found out I have to sign up on YouTube for more time, but no biggie. Um, this is my third video I've posted on YouTube ever, so uh, I had to do all this by myself. So we're getting it done. I'm just trying to share information with you. So I got a question for you. Do you got your scribe guides? This one here, I don't know if you can see it good, but it's just it's a geometric shape. It's a triangle. You can find them online. They've got stuff on there, and it's got is and is not. It's got God in the middle and whatever. And it's a scribe guide for understanding like who's talking and uh, stuff in the Bible. And I'm just giving you an example, and that is my father believes that all summer long you take in as much manna as you can, and you get that manna built up in you, and then in autumn you have the harvest. The harvest is where God, he just hugs all his children and brings them all to him. It's the rapture, you know. But it's a thought. It's the rapture. You get taken up by God, and you're with him. So that's just getting the spirit in you, and that's what I'm trying to do, is put the spirit in you and give you the understanding of the Bible. And I don't know if you looked up Metatron and that, but it's a geometric shape. There's the tree of life. That's a geometric shape. And there's other stories about using geometry and literature together to predict outcomes or make outcomes, or to see how you can make something happen by not completing the math or doing the math, or so on and so forth. And this is another one. This is the tree of life. I did some math on there and some writing and that, but this isn't so important as understanding the other stuff. But this is something else that I'll do something on later. But right now we're talking about symbols in the Bible. When I left you last time, and we were talking about the Ark of the Covenant and the cherubim and stuff. So I got to tell you this little story here, because this gives you understanding of the symbols. All right. And anyways, my initials are E.T. They're mentioned over 11,000 times in the Bible. Coincidence. But they bring attention to parts of the Bible. And the very first "et" is at in the beginning. So this you have to understand. When you read the Bible's about human nature, so you're drawn to it because it's about you, and you're trying to get an understanding. But some people don't understand the God structures and stuff like that. That's what the Ark of the Covenant does. It tells you who your God is. It tells you everything. It's just a concept for thinking, and you put the pieces together and you get it. But anyways, you get to Genesis and that, in the beginning. The question is, what beginning? Okay, because the Bible's about human nature and nations. So are we talking about the beginning where you were born, then you get this thought in your head, you hear voices, people are talking and stuff and whatever, and then somebody points out a tree and they say that's a tree, and you get your reality, that's a tree. Okay. Then you start creating from that point on. So when you hear you got a God, you start creating them. And you learn your numbers and words, and then you learn to put your words together. But there's something that means combine, and just think of the cherubim. If the cherubim are facing each other, they're combined. If they're not combined. So, anyways, you got that in your mind and everything else. But the Bible's about building nations. So right there at the beginning of the Bible, because at the end of Genesis, God takes the cherubims and puts them back to protect the tree of life, and acknowledge good and evil, and keep evil branches from being on that tree. That's God's family tree that shows all that. But yeah, are you talking about building nations? Because the cherubim represent one perfect God and one perfect nation. My law and my religion. So he puts them there. And that's what I asked myself at the end of Genesis, what was my law and religion? But the point is there's two different thoughts that you can get in your head when you're reading the Bible, because human nature and nations are combined. And the cherubim symbolize that when they're facing each other. Okay. But when I ended the last video, we were saying your law and religion isn't aligned. That's the meaning, the understanding that you get from that symbolism. And we're talking these symbols, because these symbols, you can take these around and rally the people, and anyways, the Ark of the Covenant, if you read Exodus, it tells you exactly how it gets put together. There's a bunch of sizes and so on and so forth. That's by God's laws, putting it together. But you get the 5 pieces inside of it, and look it up online. You'll figure it out. So, all right. So we were talking about the Ark of the Covenant, and got Aaron's rod object to get the olives on there, the manna, that's human nature, that's spirit, and all that. You got a covenant with God to protect your children and your children's children. You don't want to lose that. You got the 10 Commandments. You don't want to break them. You get a crown when you get the understanding of the knowledge of good and evil. You understand the mercy seat, because if there's a bad God you're not going to follow, and you can see how you can get crucified. And, the cherubim's got their wings spread out to symbolize protecting all this and everything. And they get a spark between them when you get the logical thoughts in your head that answer the questions that you're asking it with all the pieces. And, let's see, I think that's about it on the Ark of the Covenant. If you can put this together and make it work, you can get the concepts that I'm talking about. United we stand, divided we fall, and just see how you get those using logic, and you'll start to understand it. And this thing made me think is like, we got our Lord God, and we're subservient to him and whatever, but if you got your Lord God protecting you, and you vote in a president, is that God? That's a question, because you don't want to lose your covenant with God, and that's something the Ark of the Covenant makes you ask. So let's see, and then we got our sword, you and me, and the you and me, and that's little scribe guide just made up. And let's see, we got the tree of life here, knowledge, good and evil. When on the tree of life, knowledge, and good and evil, when Moses made his government, he let his people choose to make their own God and government. Because he went up the mountain once, he come down, showed it to the people. They're like, okay. And then they melted a calf and made a calf and whatever else. He broke that, and he's like, that's not the religion I had in mind. And 40 days later, he had went up the mountain. 40 days later, he comes back down with the Ten Commandments written in his hand, because the first time I think it was written in God's hand. And he shows it to the people and everything, and they're like, okay. And they could see this in their minds and understand this. And that's what the symbols are about. This is how you're seeing this in your mind. So it's very important that you get that. And then we'll be thinking alike, that sword will have fire, because we will understand the same thing. And anyways, when all this happened on Lord God's tree of life, knowledge, and good and evil, it got a new branch, which is Moses, the government. Okay? And see, evil's represented, but it has no branches. But Moses got his government. And it's got Lord gods and lords and angels, and just the scribe guide for understanding. But I hope you understood that. Okay. You understand the tree of life and that, and why the cherubim are there to protect it. And okay. So now here's the thing. There's concepts in Genesis. And then you take pieces from Genesis and in this thinking concept, and you bring them into Exodus, and you use some of the pieces from Genesis and the Ark of the Covenant in Exodus. So that's a small concept in Genesis. And then there's a larger concept in Exodus. So the question you have to ask yourself is the Bible a concept? And when you ask yourself that, the beginning and the end is missing. And when you read Revelations, they talk about the Alpha and the Omega, and God is the Alpha and the Omega. So basically, you're not supposed to write in the Bible or add to it or take away. You don't do that. You do this in your mind, okay? If you write the Alpha, which is the beginning, and you get the God structure right, you get one good God in heaven. The book has an ending, which is when God comes back and renews his covenant with you. And he's going to protect your children and your children's children. Your nation is going to last for eternity doing this. This is how your generations survive for eternity. So, anyways, you write the Alpha and the Omega. The thing is if you don't get the God structure right at the beginning, you got two gods, or you think you're God, or whatever, this book never ends. So this is the concept thought of the Bible. And anyways, when you get to Revelations, I read Revelations, and it was talking to me, because I had been on God's throne. I've seen from God's eyes all this stuff in my mind, and I can understand what I'm seeing. So, and that's the door on the Ark of the Covenant. That door, that's, to pray in private, just you take these concepts and you think them out, and that's your praying. That's how you're understanding. Because they put these keys in the Bible for understanding the whole Bible. I can read a section and you can figure out how things are working. Okay, just to give you an example, and this is some understanding in building nations in Genesis. Some people are like, "Oh, the Bible's violent and your God does bad things," and it's like, no, my God doesn't do bad things. See, you got Sodom and Gomorrah. And Sodom and Gomorrah, and this is my understanding because I've read different Bibles and they say them different ways and whatever else, but the Lords and the Lord gods you have to understand, and it could be somebody that thinks that they're God, but with the key you can understand who they're talking about. So anyways, in Sodom and Gomorrah, the lords and the angels destroyed the city of Sodom and Gomorrah because it didn't have no law. That's why that government failed. But they destroyed the city of Sodom and Gomorrah because that was God's will. Okay? Now ask yourself, why was that God's will? Well, if God's will is only for good, evil can't exist. Okay? So my God didn't destroy the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. He just wanted good. So that's how I got my one supreme God with that thinking and that thinking concept. But I understand how that government failed. When you read Genesis, all of those are nations that have collapsed, and you figure out why they collapsed and how they collapsed. Okay? And figure out what kind of nations they were. What kind of religion and gods do they have? You know, in Egypt, you'd think they had many gods. That's the thought that you have in your mind. But Jacob was the hand of the Pharaoh, which pretty much means Egypt was a Christian nation at one point. And Sodom and Gomorrah, they sent Lot there to preach and to bring people back to God and that. So Sodom and Gomorrah was a Christian nation too. And Babylon, or Babel, the Tower of Babel, that was built, and there's 12 tribes. They all spoke different languages. People with this understanding were communicating with the other tribes. This is my belief. And when they destroyed the tower, they killed the translators, and they could no longer communicate, and that's gone. Then they had more than one God. But just trying to understand how all these nations and stuff fell in the Bible, it's like, okay. So, and then, it just gives you a better understanding. So, there we go with that. But now let's talk Revelations a little bit. Now, like I said, I think it was like it was talking to me when I read it. So, because there's symbolism there. In the Bible, if you get a Bible with pictures in it, usually, then they have a picture that's in Genesis, and that's a symbol. Okay, so you got God standing there, and he's got the menorah in one hand, and he's got stars in the other hand, and they're telling you a story. And the menorah's got 7 candles on it, candlesticks, and there should be 2 more. That should be 9 on the menorah. If Egypt and Sodom and Gomorrah were Christian nations, that would be represented on that stick. So, just a thought, Moses goes up the mountain to do the 10 Commandments. He's talking to somebody, and there's a burning bush that's not being consumed. Could that be the menorah? And that's just a question, because I'm looking at it, okay, and we see where this issue is with the menorah. So in the other hand, he has stars, and those represent the 7 churches, or the 7 archangels. But there's 7. Okay? So could they have been the ones with the menorah, and the would be the 7 churches and the 7 archangels? Because I think the archangels are the stars. I haven't drawn all this out yet, but anyways, there's other books to the Bible. If you're reading like the King James Version, they've left books out. There's 395 lost books of the Bible. Have I read them? Yes. Am I a religious person? I'm more of a government guy, but yes, I am religious, but I don't go to church, and I can't study the Bible with people because they don't listen enough to get the understandings, and they don't understand, a lot of things. That's why I'm making these videos, because I love you. I want to see the harvest. I want y'all to get taken up by God and understand having a God concept makes it a lot better when you're talking politics to somebody that's thought it out, and I've been called arrogant and everything else, and it's like, geez, I'm just trying to convey my idea, and I think it's pretty good. You can use logic to get these answers. So anyways, we got God standing there. He's got the menorah and everything else, and there's symbols, the olive, the candlestick, all that. Rabbi Merdecki Craft, DNA of the Hebrew language, really strongly suggest that you watch that. That's a really good video for understanding what I'm talking about with the literature and all that. And there's another one. It's pyramids and stuff, but it's about the Hebrew language, and I'll get the name of that, and I'll say that in another video. But anyways, God's got the menorah in that, and you got your candlesticks. There's a whole bunch of symbolism, even though you don't see the pictures. Just think of the thing and what it's saying to you, and it brings a lot of things to life. But it tells you to send a letter to the 7 churches if you understand what he's saying. So I'm thinking, what is the message that you should send to the 7 churches? And the only message I can think of is nobody knows their religion. The Jews, it doesn't matter who they are. They don't understand this. They don't understand the best God and everything else right off the bat to compare everything to. That's pretty wild. And anyways, if you got any comments or questions, I do appreciate them. You can put them down in the comment thing. The very first video I did, I sent out, and I got like 30 people that looked at it, and I didn't get no comments. And I took that as a good thing, because it just takes I was trying to take the fight out of people and just try to give them understanding of like what they're saying to me and how they're acting and stuff, and not listening. And it's somebody would probably think it's of a little poor taste or something like that, but it's not about the taste, it's about the understanding. When you get enlightened, people don't want to listen, and I'm just trying to convey what I've learned to people, and it's hard. So I hope you watch the next video on that, and you have a good day.